I'm going to take the mic out. It's always a huge mistake when I do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. I guess speaking of parenting, so there's things that they don't tell you the first time you go in to donate sperm. They don't tell you that DVDs are available, but only upon request, and even then you're going to have to hand over either your keys or your wallet to make sure that you don't steal their porn. They don't tell you that while prospective families won't see your picture, they will be given your attractiveness score, somewhere on a scale from 1 to 10, based on a series of headshots to be taken at a later date. And they certainly don't tell you any tips on how to get your product into the little plastic sample cup. Or maybe they told me all of these things, but I was just too embarrassed and nervous to listen much after they stopped asking me about my height and my SAT scores. But either way, right now when I'm in this donor room for the first time, this donation room for the first time, I'm feeling a little underinformed and a lot overwhelmed. And it's just it's like a doctor's office, but with a TV and a dimmer switch for, I guess, mood lighting. And there's a chair and a sink and the 3 most battered and abused Hustler magazines in there. Yeah, and it's really tough. And I'm supposed to be at work at my real job, the one I'm hoping to quit with the money that I get from donating sperm. And I told my boss that I had a doctor's appointment, and he said, "Oh, I hope you're okay." Or he said, "Oh, are you okay?" And I said, "I hope so." But I'm not sure that I am standing in this room. There's 2 kinds of sperm donation. There's open and closed. And for a closed donation, the person does their business, leaves, and that's the end of it. And for an open donation, when the kids, because it's not uncommon for popular sperm donors to have more than 50 children. But when they turn 18, you owe them a lunch, I guess. And the difference between an open and a closed donation is $25. It's $25 more for open. And I guess the hope that in 18 years existential dread won't drive you to the nearest college campus to walk around and be does that one look like me? Does that one look like me? And I'm doing an open donation, mostly because I need the money if I want to quit my job. And I really want to quit my job. Because I'm terrible at it. I'm just in over my head. I'm working these 70-hour weeks. My boss has started giving me packets of work that I don't know how to do. And so when no one is in the office, I start going around and opening file cabinets and just slipping it in. And at any point, someone's going to find all this work that I'm hiding, and I'm going to be fired. And so, I have these late night conversations with my wife about how miserable I am, and she asks me what I miss about being unemployed. And I say, if I'm honest, I miss 2 things. I miss writing, and I miss jerking off. And she said, well, we know we can't get you a job writing. And so here I am in this office doing an open donation, but I'm realizing it's a huge mistake. I turn on the TV and it's just really loud. It's static, and I know everybody can hear it out there, but it's just static, and there's no DVD, and there's nothing I can actually use. So I turn it off, and I'm looking around, looking anywhere, fighting off the realization that I'm gonna have to use the magazines or the covers of the magazines because I'm not touching them. But looking at these bent over, sad, creased women. All I can think about is Grant Moran from my 4th grade class. Because when we were in 4th grade, Grant Moran found his father's Playboy. And for some reason, either because the magazine itself would be too conspicuous, or he was really into arts and crafts, he cut out all the pictures of naked ladies and he glued them to a piece of paper, a green construction paper. It's pornographic collage. And he brought that to school. And I remember standing outside this group of boys, standing on my tiptoes, trying to see it. And it was the first time in my life that I wished that I had a father. Because because my parents got divorced when I was 4, and so I was raised by my single mother, who's like extremely Catholic. And, like I wasn't allowed to see PG-13 movies until I was 14. And for my 8th birthday, I'd received this children's illustrated encyclopedia. And like years later, I loved it. And years later, I was like, oh man, I should look up sex. And so I like ran home, I opened the encyclopedia, went to the index, and there it was, like sexual reproduction, page 367. And so I went to the page and saw that my encyclopedia went from page 365 to 368, with like a perfectly torn page right down the middle. My mother had torn it out before giving it to me. And it's that exact feeling of disappointment that I feel more than 15 years later in this donation room, realizing that like I'm not going to be able to do this. Like here's another job I'm terrible at, and I'm going to have to like walk out of here with like put my pants back on, take this cup without even breaking the seal, and take it back out. And so I do that, and I walk out into the waiting room. The waiting room of this place, like they cater mostly to like college-age dudes, and so it's like this weird combination of a doctor's waiting room and a frat house. So like there's like a Shawshank Redemption and a Scarface poster like framed on the wall, and magazines on the like coffee tables, but then like a pile of Slim Jims as well. And so I'm doing like the walk of shame through that, and I'm trying to figure out like if I can just throw the empty cup behind the counter and run, because there's this girl sitting at the desk, and she's just like this young. She makes me feel so old. She's like a college age girl, and she's wearing pretty much like a complete hazmat suit without the helmet thing, like down to the gloves and the footies. And so I start walking to her, just being like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And as I get there, she doesn't even look up from what she's doing. She just says, "You need a DVD?" I was like, "Yeah." And then she said, "What's your type?" And like, I've seen boobs, like despite my mom's best efforts, like, you know, I finally was able to see PG-13 and then R-rated movies. You know, I went to college, I had my own computer and the internet. I mean, I'm married, like I've seen boobs, I have a type, but there's no way I'm gonna like get into that with this woman, this girl, sitting at this counter while I'm holding this cup. And so I said, no, just whatever will work. And she takes out like this giant CD binder, like the one I used to carry around before I had an iPod, and just pulls out this DVD and hands it to me, and then asks for my car keys. And as I walk back to the donation room and I look at the cover of Blondelicious 14, I realized I was wrong, that like not anything would work. But like I'll save you the gory details. I went to the donation room like 30 minutes later, and a lot of shame and tears later, I came out and I realized that like the only thing worse than handing this girl an empty cup was handing her like a 10th full cup. And so I get to the counter, and she can see that I'm just like having a panic attack. And she says, "You're sure you want to do an open donation?" And there's this moment where I can say no to this, or I can say no to the whole thing, and I can just like run away. Because I'm realizing now that like $100 a week isn't going to be enough to quit a full-time job. But I also realized that it's not exactly about the money. Like if I go through with this, if I do this, there's going to be 1 or maybe 50 kids that are half like this high strung and this like neurotic. And at some point, those kids are going to turn 18 and they're going to have questions. And I'd hate to think that all they'd find was a torn out page. So, thanks, guys.